Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Welcome
hi.
to Properties Zone Live. We have Jeffrey with us today.
Hi.
First of all, before we start, I just want to extend our word to say that Happy Mid Autumn Day, 中秋节快乐 for those who are celebrating at home. I think most of us are at home. Hopefully, nobody else is on the way home. If you're on the way home, just drive safely. I think many places are still in the rain. Okay? Yeah, you're taking your dinner, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Waiting for this property zone.
I hope you have eaten at ease without having much pressure.
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching here, you can type in to say a few words, and you have any question on the post and ask the man. Okay, the man on the screen, which we don't have many chances. You can post a question, post a comment here. We'll pick it up and we answer accordingly. And for those of you who are in the real estate line, I think Jeff Lim is no strange name or strange face to many of us. But let's go through some of the things people who are not so familiar with the industry or not so familiar with him. He's actually have won a numerous award, representing IQI. He has won the Star and Outstanding Negotiator by iProperty, Breakthrough Negotiator, all right, Negotiator of the Year, All-Star Negotiator, and all the awards are given by iProperty and different platforms. So I think you probably have to set up another session just to understand the differences and the significance of each and every awards they have won over the past 4 or 5 years. Okay, so I think the topic for today is quite crucial. We want to know what will be the update on the property market. But today will be a little different. We are actually zooming into so-called luxury or premium property market segment. And the reason why I want to zoom into this and invited Jeff is because I think two reasons. The first reason is it's not easy to get Jeff, being a busy schedule he's having, to come on board and to share with us his view. And so we want to cater something that's target to him. That's the first reason. The second reason we are going to the premium segment or luxury segment side is because we feel that this is actually a very important benchmark to gauge the situation of property. Like what we have just discussed just now is that, for example, if a property in luxury market, let's say it's going for 3 million, has suffered, it has dropped down the price to 2 million. Let's say, for example, then the price originally at 2 million property will have actually come down to 1.5 to 1.3. And the domino effect will trigger from the top to bottoms. So that's one of the things if you can know in ahead the luxury mix or the premium segment of property market, if we can have a gauge of how they are doing, then we can basically know a little bit more about the benchmark for the remaining segment of the property market. And there's a reason why we have invited Jeffrey, and we want to talk about the things on premium or the luxury segment side of the property market. Okay. So for those of you who just come in, we want to talk about this segment. And the first question I'm going to shoot, Jeff, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think today we just want to make things, today is mid-autumn days. We just want to make it too textbook, too rigid. And but I want to get enough information and get enough knowledge, insight from Jeff himself. So Jeff, can you share with us, the first question I want to pose to you, Jeff, can you share with us, without going through so-called statistic department or the NAPIC information, but just through your personal experience for the past 6 months, and also maybe some input with the people you work with, maybe some of the few agents. How do you feel about the transaction volume or the transaction asking price and so on the property market side, those who is priced above 2 million?
So hi everyone, happy Mid-Autumn Festival to interrupt your celebrations. So to answer Sean regarding the first questions, honestly speaking, for the past 6 months, we feel that it's a bit abnormal because I think market was expecting that the property market will be softened down, especially for high-end properties. So for the past 6 months, in fact, beside me, of course, also some other agents that we work with for luxury properties, we tend to have a very good response. I'm not sure why, especially some of the property that we've been marketing for the past 3-4 years. There's no taker. They don't even have much viewing. But after the MCO been removed, so we tend to have quite a number of inquiries about this kind of properties which is within the city, urban area, and of course, especially for landed property. Like we did have a lot of inquiries. So this is what that all of us, we are not really sure what's happening, but it's really booming on the luxury properties segment at the present moment. In fact, I think part of the reason because some of the owner might reduce a bit, but mainly still, I think out there people who are looking for prime locations, especially with complete amenities nearby. There are still buyers waiting for this kind of properties being pushed out in the market. So some of the owner definitely they did soften a bit, but not like Sean mentioned. 3 million dropped to 2 million. I think 3 million up to 2.7, 2.8 million. People already start grabbing. That's why got no chance to grab anything, 3 to 2 million, that kind of range. Yeah. So, I think that's what the current market is for the past 6 months. In fact, now still, I'm not too sure about after the moratorium period have passed, but now I think we are still doing good in the luxury segment. Yeah.
Okay. So to cut it short, you summarize basically we're looking at if the property price in the prime location, it will reduce the price by 5 to 10%. That means the inquiries will have power up. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would think this could be two reasons as we have discussed before. Let me just share with the audience. Of course, there will be the pent-up demand. That means the people who wanted to buy a property or want to survey a property, they did not have a chance to do so during the MCO period, right? So maybe had they have a chance to open, it's just like, what they call 报复性消费, 报复性, revenge spending, revenge buying, all this thing. So people, I think the pent-up demand in accumulation for the past 4 months to 6 months suddenly explode. Suddenly happened, and then at the opening of MCO. Probably this is the first reason. I think second reason, the price. I think the one way to look at it is the seller probably have softened the asking price, probably contributed by the removal of RBGT, in the sense that now the seller, the saving they have enjoyed from in June onwards, probably they just pass down to buyer, in the sense that they did not collect less money, but they are passing down the saving to the buyer just to make sure the transaction happen as soon as possible. Do you think could be the one of the reason, Jeff?
Yeah, definitely. I think RPG is one of the big factors that owners need to slightly soften down. I would say, in terms of the owner side, owner did not really make much when they come down the price. Majority they're just passing through the saving on RPGT towards the purchasers. And maybe I'm not sure. Maybe during the MCO, the lockdown period, people being closed down inside the condo with 2,000 square foot. I think they cannot tahan. So after the MCO been lifted, I think everyone come and look for landed properties.
Okay, true. So I think that will come to the criteria part as well. Coming back to the lender side, this is not only happening in Malaysia. Actually, they have articles written in regards to Hong Kong, in regards to London as well. And one reason people willing to spend a little bit more money, but buying further away landed as compared to condo, I think the two reason is the COVID-19 play a big role, because for condo still is higher density living environment compared to landed. So people try to avoid try to avoid staying in a high density, when you go to the lift, when you go to a common facility, you look at the button, you're a bit scared, you don't know how many people have touched it, how often they have been sanitized. So landed, once you come back, if you have the electronic gate, right? Basically, you just open and you're all the way in your house. And the second thing is like people can actually buy a further away place, because maybe they only go to office 3 days in a week. That means the traffic spent on the road is lesser compared to before COVID-19 plays.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's a good sharing from you in regards to why the inquiry built up. Of course, we don't have the absolute answer behind it, and nobody has it. But I think there's a very good education and a very good analysis to contribute. What are the reasons the inquiry has gone up when the MCO is lifted? I think the second thing is inquiry is one thing. It's just like when we transact property, you always know that placing a booking is not a sure thing until the sales can be converted by signing the SPA and loan agreement and so on and so forth. So the question posed to you, Jeff, right? Inquiry has gone up, but how about those people? Are they still able to get a loan? Is the bank still eager to lend out the money as people have guessing? What's your response to that?
I think for the past 6 months, I wouldn't say for the past 6 months. I think most of the time, for our properties transacted value 2 million and above, majority we don't have issues on the loan part. We really don't have the issues on loan part. Even though some of the people are still wondering about, when you're purchasing high value properties, banks are reluctant to giving out max loan, which is 90% loan. In fact, for our side, lately we transacted one unit at 7.1 million. They're even able to obtain about 90% loan margin. So I think it's more on the personal borrower financial status. That's to justify whether they are able to get the maximum loan or not. And of course, I think upon the MCO lifted, I think there's certain industry that the bank reluctant to give out the loan. Of course, that will be the hotel industry and also tourism. I think that is CIMB bank that we encounter, that as long as they don't even wanted to see your financial background first, they wanted to see what is your occupation.
Industry you're in, yeah.
So I think these are the two that we gonna during the after MCO for CIMB bank. But other bank, they are still giving out loans. It's still fine.
Okay.
Really depending on individual.
Question posed to you, Jeff, you don't mind. Okay, let's come back to the deal of the 7.1 million. Was the valuation by the bank match the transaction price between the buyer and the seller? Or the bank would have slashed?
Honestly, for that particular deal, we have a bit of issues that the transacted price unable to match with the valuation. Means the valuation is slightly lower. I think the valuation is about 6 or 6.5. So our duty is to make some magic, legal magic. So we make it able to make it up to 7.1 million with the value. So that's why purchaser able to obtain up to 90% loan margin.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic for especially in the low interest environment now, right? The higher the loan, doesn't make much difference the installment. Okay, so we know about the inquiries, we know about the loan approval rate. Okay, now we come back to the behavior, the buyer's behavior. You see, the behavior or the selecting criteria, instead of saying a buyer's behavior, let's say the selecting criteria for buyers when it comes to buying a house, especially under your portfolio, under your care. Do you see a significant difference in them prior to MCO or prior to COVID-19 and now? Perhaps more inquiries on lender based on the reason we discussed before. But the rest, what any other changes you experienced? Changes in selecting criteria?
Before and after MCO doesn't make much difference. I think people still, for those who are looking for landed property, majority of their criteria is still back to the amenities. What is the nearby amenities, especially for their families' needs, like for kids, for education, is that near to educations?
So school is one of them. How close to our kids?
School is one of the main criteria. Why people moving towards city, majority because of educations. I think that's one big thing. Then second thing will be the daily groceries, shoppings, entertainment part. All right. So I think that's one of the second point. So I think these are the two, and of course for elderly always comes to medical care. For elderly always comes to medical care if it's nearby medical center will be a plus point. And of course one of the main issues is on the accessibility of main road. I'm talking about main road. Because luxury sector, they don't really utilize too much on the public transport like LRT, MRT. So
Yeah.
majority will be on highways, tall. I think these are the few things that the purchasing behavior, they are still looking for these few points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for your sharing. So for
Right.
those of you who are listening to this, so as you know, when it comes to different type of property, of course, people will be looking for different selecting criteria. Of course, amenities, close to good school, close to medical center is one thing, but close to public transportation, for example, MRT station, it will become probably the least priority as for this type of property as compared to you're looking at 500,000 range. If I can take from this, I can draw an analogy. It's like you're buying a car, right? If you're buying a 50, 60,000 car, maybe you're very concerned about the road tax and the fuel consumption. But if you are looking at the 700,000 or 1 million ringgit car, probably you want to know, you don't care so much about the fuel consumption. What you want to know, how long it takes you from 0 to 100. Maybe like,
Yes,
you
yes,
have
yes.
to be at least XC90, right? The performance, right? Okay, I'm giving you guys a hint, huh? The white color one, okay. How's the car treating you?
Fabulous.
Marvelous, huh? Okay, we have another session on the car soon. Okay,
Yeah,
since we
yeah,
both love
yeah.
car. Okay, so I think that's a takeaway from the buyer selection is when it comes to different group of property, the selecting criteria will be very much different. Just like when the MRT line 2 want to put a station, put a line and with the station across Taman-Tun, you can see protests whereby a lot of other developments, they are dying to have putting the big things in their advertisement sign, like walking distance to MRT or LRT signboard, whereby established luxury premium segment, they try to avoid it because they just don't take public transportation.
Correct.
Okay.
I wouldn't say all the owners who are staying in such property value they don't really take public transport but it's on the lease side I think maybe 3 or 5% of them because of traveling to KLCC area, KL City area during morning time to avoid the jam. They will still utilize the public transport but I think majority 90 to 95% of the owners there, they are they have their own transport. They hardly utilize the public transport.
Especially now, they try to avoid being in
Correct.
close contact with the people around them. I think that's very important. I think also another point I almost forgot, Jeff. Remember this afternoon we discussed about the buying selection criteria, as in the life cycle of the people. When people will first start buying, they get a high rise, and then the dream is like getting a landed. Wow, when it's come to a corner or semi-D or even a bungalow, they will reach a prime time of their life cycle in terms of property journey. But the journey doesn't stop there.
Yes.
Right? So where it comes to the time that the people want to downsize their house because the kids is already moving out or the kids are studying or even working overseas. Right? Can you tell us a bit an example of this group of people? What are the changes in property selection criteria? They go through different cycle of life.
Yeah, I think it's a life cycle. So normally, for normal families, when they started a new family, like just get married, normally they'll go for condo, or good one will go for link houses So once you have kids already, normally you will tend to opt for slightly bigger. Example like end lot come with some land, or some of them go for link corner, or greater one will go for semi-D. So of course, once you have semi-D already, or you have a corner lot or end lot. So when your kids grown up, like 12, 13, 14, they tend to wanted to have their own space, their own room. That's where you are going to upgrade to bungalow. All right. So assuming you upgrade to bungalow, normal range, your kids go overseas is about age of 18, 19, 20, right? So once all the kids grown up, they go overseas, left 2 of them who are staying in a bungalow. And afterwards, once they graduated, they most probably they'll stay back in the country, or even they come back, maybe they get married and the kids will all move out. So the cycle comes where all these owners they are staying in such a huge bungalow that they couldn't maintain it. That's where they are looking for downsizing to those big condos, example like 2,000-3,000 square foot built up area condos, because by that age they don't want to maintain the house at all. Landscaping, fish pond, dogs, they don't want to. They just wanted to stay in a place where they can lock the door and go overseas immediately. Even though 2 months when they're back, the house is still there. So I think it's a circle. That's why there's always demand there been turning around. Yeah.
And then one major thing my clients told me, my clients moved from a bungalow and semi from Tropicana to a condo, like what Jeff has mentioned.
Yeah.
Major thing, of course, other than maintaining the house chore and the staircase. When you stay in the landed house, staircase going up is a chore. It's an everyday chore to go up. Even though you don't sleep upstairs, you need to go up there to take some stuff and clean up the house. So stay in a condo, 30,000 at one level, will be an idea for them for the moment. Even though downsizing their house in terms of the area, but they actually improve the quality of life. That's
correct. I tell you what, I have owners who are staying in 1 acre bungalow. 1 acre bungalow.
1 acre bungalow.
Yeah, 2 of them staying only. Just 2 of them, 3 maids, 2 driver, 2 landscaper.
Full-time landscaper.
Yeah, two full-time landscaper maintaining the whole garden, 1 acre. So this kind of lifestyle where all the kids, they are about 70 plus years old, how are they going to maintain such a big house?
Yeah.
You know, so that's why it's a cycle. When your family members grown up, you know, you need bigger space and bigger space. That's why I think there's always demand in landed property within the city. There's always demand. It just, some of them, they just want to buy the locations. You tend to see a lot of Taman Tun, you know, they all bought a rundown house. They don't mind to pay. They just knock down the whole house and rebuild a brand new house, you know, because why? The location that's is very near to their, you know, kids' education. They don't need to spend every day an hour to 2 to jam in the traffic, you know. So when they stay near to the city, it's still jam. Instead of jam for 1.5 hours or 1 hour, they jam for 20 minutes. They just cut short the jam, the distance, you know. That's why I think property within the city is still high demand, especially landed property. You can't create land, but high rise you can increase the plot ratio. You know, last time we used to have 1 condo, 200 plus, 200, even 300 units. People shouting high density. Nowadays you can see how high it is. So I think landed, there is still great demand in the market. Yeah.
If you talk about landed, I think come back to one of the subtopic we discussed just now. When it comes to buying criteria, does strata landed and individual title landed makes difference for the purchaser, or they don't really care much about it?
They don't really care much about that, except foreigner because foreigner they got limitations. They only able to acquire landed strata property. They can't acquire individual title. So for foreigner they got no choice. The only choice is landed strata. But I think for local market, that doesn't really affected the decision making, especially for local. They prefer individual title because the maintenance fees is, you know, half, 50% cheaper or even 60% cheaper. Yeah. So of course, the cases where landed strata they do have some clubhouse. Yes, I agree that some of the owner they might like it, but I think majority they still prefer paying low maintenance fees where they need to use the utilities or the clubhouse facilities. They just pay. I mean, some of the housing estate, the nearby golf course, you know, they can always subscribe their golf memberships and utilize as per unit. So
as per unit.
Yeah, because if not, if you are staying in the landed strata, you got no choice. Even you don't really utilize it, you need to pay the maintenance fees. And you've been surprised. Some of the owner they stayed there 5 years, they've been paying 5 years, 6 years. They don't even use the facilities at all, but they have to pay.
Yeah, I understand exactly. Even if some of the gym membership people use pay as you go, they still also don't go as frequent as they want. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Jeff,
nowadays,
you want to share with us, Share what's the main reason behind the Selangor state government impose this foreigner can only buy strata landed instead of individual title landed?
I personally think if you notice that for landed strata properties normally will be much higher price. Okay, much higher price. So if we notice that, I think government, the Selangor government, they have these rules. Majority is to protect our local Malaysian able to acquire slightly cheaper property. If you really look at it, landed strata property, normally 3, 4, 5, even 6 million onwards. But you hardly will see. I'm talking about semi-D semi-D. Normally, semi-D landed strata will be 3 million and above one. You can't, a bit difficult to get 3 million and below landed strata, except those very further away one. Yeah,
All right.
yeah, and I think this is one of the way that Selangor government, they protect the Selangor people to able to own a slightly cheaper semi.
So in other words, it still fall back on the price range. They want to keep the cheaper one per se to the local
Yes.
Malaysian. Okay,
Correct.
thanks for
you survey around, you roughly will notice that. Landed strata, normally the property value is much higher.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
So we have two more questions to ask you, Jeff. I think the fact that I'm speaking to you today on the 1st of October is it's a very special day because it's the beginning of no more loan moratorium, right?
Okay.
So
Yes.
I actually spoke to some of the banker friends just to gauge how many percent of the people would actually opt for extended moratorium. And the figure he gave me is actually way lower than I expected. I was expecting minimum 30-40% people who would request extension, the moratorium extension. But in fact, less than 20% have asked for it. So I also not sure how to interpret. One of the things is could be very good in the sense that people were during this 6 months they found a footing, they found a way to survive and thrive. They feel that they don't have to rely. I think that's very good. But he also said there could be a very extreme example. That means that during this moratorium, they did not survive during the 6 months financially. So to extend the moratorium or not already make no difference to them. So at the moment, so it could be a very good, it could be not so good. I mean, actually quite bad quite bad scenario. So we don't know which is which, but we can only know the figures that people actually come in and ask for the extension is less than 20%.
Okay.
So that's the figures. But what was your thought about this end of moratorium? Do you think you will spark something out of this in terms of property side?
I personally think that if it's for those high-end properties, honestly speaking, doesn't really affect it a lot, even though it's already expired for the Moratorium program. But if you ask my opinion, even there is any impact will be those who bought high-end luxurious properties for investment. I think that will be affected now. You'll notice some of the area which there's still some house empty since day one for the past 3, 4, 5 years. I think this kind of properties, maybe there will be impact. The owner might reduce a bit, but again, when it comes to luxury properties,
the entry price already so high.
Yeah. So honestly, for those house who can't hold the properties, they won't hold until 3, 4 years, not even wanted to rent out. All right, still hold on the price. You got what I mean? So which means that if they really can't service the installment, they really can't hold. They will sell at the first year already. Since they already hold it for 3, 4 years, they'll tell you, Jeff, already hold for 3, 4 years. Might as well hold another 1, 2 years. Wait until the market recover. This is what they told us. So I think luxury properties, they I don't know, very difficult to get so-called fire sale, except those super expensive property maybe. Those like I just told you, those 1 acre bungalow, where no one's staying, or maybe even 2 elderly who are staying, like I just told you, 3 maids, 2 driver, that kind of house. Yeah, they have some fire sale. But the fire sale is 17 million, drop until 13 million, or drop until 14 million, is still expensive. You get what I mean? The group of people who are able to afford it is still very little. I mean, it's still very less. So that's why this kind of sector, yes, there is some so-called fire sale. All right. But if you're talking about those 2-3 million or below 4 million, so like what you say, 3 million up to 2 million, so far, I haven't really seen this kind of situation happens. The majority of the luxury properties within the city is currently occupied by the owner. By the owner. And I believe most of the owners who own the luxurious properties, they have more than 1 or 2 properties. Even they have suffered some financial difficulties, I think the first one to dispose will be those investment products instead of own stay products. That's what I would think.
Okay. Okay. So last question. What's
Yes.
the advice? What's the advice, at this junction you have for property buyer or people who are actually dealing with property real estate industry? What would be your advice to them? Yeah. Jeff?
Because you guys know I'm majority dealing with own stay properties. I would say not 99%, 100% of my buyer are own stay. All right. So I cannot say on behalf of investment products, but I would say more on own stay products. For own stay products, especially you're looking for properties within the city, urban area. I think there will be no best time for you to acquire a landed property within the urban area. There is no best time. All right. So if you ask me when is the best time, yesterday is the best time. Because I think, as I said, the scarcity of the landed or land within the city is getting lesser and lesser. Developers are moving outwards, like new township, like Kota Komuning, we have Rimbayu, we have Semenye, those areas. So those areas, no choice because the land cost is cheaper, developer definitely will build it nicely, But again, the distance is the thing that you need to satisfy, the traffic, the distance, the time. So why the properties within the city is still high demand? Because of just all those factors that I told you. The need is still there. Unless you are talking those, really you work from home, you don't need to travel to the city, your kids don't need to travel to the city, or you're the retiree, then of course doesn't make much difference. Yeah. But for those people who still traveling into the city, they got no choice. They have to suffer from the traffic jam. And why not get a properties within the city, stay for 5-10 years later when your kids, you don't need to travel to the city, maybe your kids is all overseas, then by the time the price increase a bit, then you might dispose it, and cash out again. I think that is one of the way, if you ask my opinion for people who are looking for own stay and landed property. Yeah,
Okay.
I think everyone know I'm doing Glen Marie. And for information, my purchases out of 100%, 60% is from Subang Jaya. 60. So why? Because they are second generation. Second generation, they're born, they're grown up in Subang Jaya, they are familiar with that area already. So they want, if even they're grown up, they start working, they wanted to acquire property, they will try to acquire nearby. But problem is Subang Jaya, they don't have a lot of gated and guarded community, and also they don't have new housing estate. That's why they still look for nearby. Like me and you, we are married, okay? So we have kids. So staying nearby to your parents' house, they will help you to, sometimes they will help you take care of your kids when you have some emergency. I think this is another point. I tell you what, I have owner staying in Glen Marie, they bought 3 kids, they bought 3 properties for me. Every year one. They just want to stay nearby. So that's why the need is really there. It's still really there. People who stay there, used to it, they don't tend to change now, So they are still scouting around for the properties there.
I see.
Yeah.
Thanks for your feedback. One thing I might add, I just want to see your opinion. A lot of times, when we see like you buy a land to build your own house, a lot of people just looking at the price for the land, maybe 250, 300 ringgit per square foot, all this thing. Sometimes their focus is just on the price they pay for the land, but they forgot if you want to buy in a good area, the 300 per square foot that you pay is not only just for the land, because it will go up a bit. It will also include the infrastructure, for example, the highway built for this area that this area can access to, the school, the good school nearby, the medical center nearby, that takes years to develop. So actually when you buy, you pay for the 300 ringgit for that per square foot of land. You're not only paying for the land, you're paying for the infrastructure, the amenities that cost tons of time, a long time, and tons of effort to actually develop as what they are today. I think that's very important. That's one thing I point to them. So so it has almost coming to the end of the place. As we have discussed just now, the biggest question today is in many people's mind is MCO's 2.0 coming or not? A lot of people already make appointment with their hairdresser. I know for sure that some of them my mom just went to grocery and stock up in the evening, halfway cooking, and just went out to buy. Because I think it had haunted experience for many people.
Yeah, it's
So
so tough.
I think just want to share with sorry Anja. So
Yeah.
just to share with people who are actually watching this, instead of guessing the MCO 2.0 is coming or not, which is beyond our control, but if it come, probably will come in 1 or 2 weeks time. I think how we should prepare ourselves is we should ask ourselves, if the MCO does come, how can we do better than before? Because when MCO was announced for 18 March, it caught many of us by surprise. We were not prepared, and a lot of times we are not equipped for the MCO lockdown. We first thought is 14 days, and then extend, it become 82 days.
Correct.
So I think the first question is we have to ask ourselves, when we just assume that MCO comes down. The question we need to ask ourselves is, how can we make a better decision? How can we better equip ourselves that we always wanted to do 6 months ago, but that we didn't do? That's probably in line with what's the development today. Jeff, you have any thoughts on that?
I think I tell myself, how can I look back into that lockdown period? When 1 or 2 years or even 5 years, 10 years later, I can proudly tell people that what I did within that month. That within that lockdown period. So I think, during the lockdown period, myself, I'm focused a lot into quadrant 2, which is important but not urgent. Example, a lot reading. I read a lot, and of course, important but not urgent. Also, we're doing on relationship with my families. Within that lockdown period, and also within that period, I think people who know me, I did do charity work that we raise fund to support about 110 B40 families. We delivered makan to them. So I think during that month, I really did a lot of quadrant 2 thing, important but not urgent. So when I look back, I think it's a good to lock down. To me, it's a good thing to lock down, improve on my relationship, improve on my knowledge, and improve of my health as well. So I think I encourage everyone really look into your quadrant 2 .
I heard you got a very good yoga teacher at home, is it? Old dancer teacher.
Yes, yoga teacher .
Yoga teacher. Okay. Anything else you want to say, or shall we call it a night, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks for having me here to share a bit of.
Thanks for spending your time with us on this mid-autumn day. All right.
Yeah.
So for those of you watching, thank you again for your time on this special day. Happy Mid-Autumn Days, 中秋节快乐 again. So you have any comments or question you want to ask, you can always post in our Facebook page, and we'll pick it up, and we'll get some further insight directly from the horse mouth. Okay, the agent of the year for Breakthrough, All-Star, and you name it, he got it. So stay safe, everyone. Thank you again, Jeff.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
OK，我们现在出去。